Hello, wonderful people. Still struggling with that inner critic, even after all the work you've been doing on yourself? Well, I'm here to help. If you're new here, hi, I'm Kahir, and I'm here to take you one step closer to self love. Today, we're reading from A Course in Miracles to help quiet that voice and find real peace. Perception is necessary before God can communicate directly to his altars, which he established in his sons. There he can communicate his certainty, and his knowledge will bring peace without question. God is not a stranger to his sons, and his sons are not strangers to each other. Knowledge preceded before perception and time will ultimately replace them. That is the real meaning of Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. And before Abraham was I am. Perception can and must be stabilized, but knowledge is stable. Fear God and keep his commandments become know God and accept his certainty. Mm. Know God and accept his certainty. Mm. And when I said if we just replaced, or, God is love, but truly understanding, what does that mean? Unconditional love, unconditional, not even, no, not 1%, not one grievance. How would you act? What would you do? How would you act? How would you speak if you knew it? You are a guiltless son of God, as perfect as he created you. So much of my life, I lived for others. I wrapped myself a pretzel to be like, I was always looking for outside validation, outside crumbs, and saying, no, I am as perfect as God created me. Holy loving, holy lovable. That's my truth with a capital T. It can never be taken away. Never, ever, 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 ever. No matter what. And just a reminder, I also talked with my coach, we're gonna be in alignment, we're gonna be out of alignment, and that's okay. It's just about getting back to it as fast as we can. Right? Getting back. Right? One step closer. Mm. But just a reminder, wherever you are, you're doing all right, man. I love you. You got this, bro. 7. If you attack error in another, you will hurt yourself and cannot know your brother when you attack him. Attack is always made upon a stranger. You are making him a stranger by misperceiving him, and so you cannot know him. It is because you have made him a stranger that you are afraid of him. Perceive him correctly so that you can know him. There are no strangers in God's creations. To create as he created, you can create only what you know and therefore accept as yours. God knows his children with perfect certainty. He created them by knowing them. He recognizes them perfectly. When they do not recognize each other, they do not recognize him. Right? Attack is always made upon a stranger. Even this person in marching band, they called me the R word. You know, he didn't know me, and I didn't know him. You know, if you think about it, we talk about this in Silva, which is also mind training, meditation. One of the guys said, "I guarantee if you're locked in the elevator with someone for days on end or the whole day, you would leave friends, right? And you get to talk about all your grievances." Even my brother Zadkiel was talking about nonviolent communication. One of the founders he talked to, he mediated between two African tribes, and they were able to communicate all their needs, what's going on, and they were able to solve the conflict. Not, you know, but if you look at the macro level, where there's these divisions, I could see my dad when he thinks all immigrants are evil, all immigrants want handouts, or something insane. This, even though he's an immigrant, it's my God, you know, whatever. It's how it works. But they don't, did he actually ever talk to somebody? Talk to them, see how they're struggling and what's going on with them? No, they just see this perception in their mind that it's not a real thing, right? As if you attack yourself, you're a stranger to yourself, you know? The reason I would attack myself is I saw, this lazy version of Kakir. Oh, he just sits around, plays games. God makes something of himself, or I'm going to whip him to shame, right? Is that love or fear? If you attack error in another, you'll hurt yourself. Mhm. So even if we see someone that we really disagree with, where all attack is a call for love. I saw this documentary about how gang members are formed, and all of them poverty, poor family life, and they just they want a sense of community, a feeling they have influence over their life. You know what I mean? That's at the source, not filling people of prisons. Next for part 4. The abilities you now possess are only shadows of your real strength. All your present functions are divided and open to question and doubt. This is because you are not certain how you will use them and are therefore incapable of knowledge. You are also incapable of knowledge because you can still perceive lovelessly. Perception did not exist until the separation introduced degrees, aspects, and intervals. Spirit has no levels, and all conflict arises from the concept of levels. Only the levels of the Trinity are capable of unity. The levels created by the separation cannot but conflict. This is because they are meaningless to each other. Mm. You are also incapable of knowledge because you can still perceive lovelessly. Mm. I, I want to read one more. Consciousness, the level of perception, was the first split introduced into the mind after the separation, making the mind a perceiver rather than a creator. Consciousness is correctly identified as the domain of the ego. The ego is a wrong minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. You can know yourself only as you are because this is all you can be sure of. Everything else is open to question. Mm. Mhm. The ego is a wrong minded attempt to perceive yourself as you wish to be rather than as you are. Now, looking at yourself as you are and saying it's okay. That's a very fundamental step to the healing journey, right? As all the fundamental principles, Abraham Hicks, I am where I am, and that's okay. If you can get to neutral, I am where I am, and that's okay. That's amazing stuff because that's acceptance, right? How many of us suffer because we're, oh, I shouldn't be where I am. I shouldn't be where I am. That person's over there, and I'm here. Come on, man. I understand. I'm not trying to mock you. I'm mocking myself. Sorry. I am where I am, and it's okay. The ego is the questioning aspect of the post separation self, which was made rather than created. It is capable of asking questions, but not of perceiving meaningful answers, because these would involve knowledge and cannot be perceived. The mind is therefore confused, because only one mindedness can be without confusion. A separated or divided mind must be confused. It is necessarily uncertain about what it is. It has to be in conflict because it is out of accord with itself. This makes its aspects strangers to each other, and this is the essence of the fear prone condition in which attack is always possible. You have every reason to feel afraid as you perceive yourself. This is why you cannot escape from fear until you realize that you did not and could not create yourself. You can never make your misperceptions true, and your creation is beyond your own error. That is why you must eventually choose to heal the separation. Damn. You did not and could not create yourself. All right, we have this illusion, this ego that we have created, right? But like I said, the atonement is realizing there is no separation. There's only source. There's only all it is. And if I'll put it more simply, if there's only one person in the room, right? It's your consciousness, right? You want that person to have a good time? Right? Yeah, don't to yell at yourself or to be mean to yourself, right? It's insanity because it's all you're only hurting yourself, right? Right-mindedness is not to be confused with the knowing mind because it is applicable only to the right perception. You can be right-minded or wrong-minded, and even this is subject to degrees, clearly demonstrating that knowledge is not involved. The term right-mindedness is properly used as the correction for wrong-mindedness and applies to the state of mind that induces accurate perception. It is miracle minded because it heals misperception And this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. Ooh, one more time. It is miracle minded because it heals misperception. And this is indeed a miracle in view of how you perceive yourself. Mm, right? The miracle is how you look at yourself now, right? This is why I said, you know, and why I talk about the Course in Miracles, because the miracle happened to me. You know, after I did all the workbook lessons and I saw the source, right? Why was my nervous system dysregulated? You know, why did I have such a harsh inner critic? Right? I was looking at itself through my distorted survival lens of C-PTSD. That's all it is, you know? And whatever, survival, well, whatever misperception you have about yourself, it can be healed, right? The atonement of knowing, like I said, you are as perfect as God created you at all times, all times, all times. But in this world, it's so easy to forget that, right? It's so easy to misperceive yourself, to call yourself names, to debase yourself, like especially as guys. I don't know. It's something where I don't know. I had to learn to respect myself, because I said growing up, I was constantly disrespected, constantly put down. And then they entered my consciousness. It's normal to disrespect yourself, to allow one more than one negative thought, but tirades, and then to tolerate misbehavior, tolerate meanness, cruelty from other people because I tolerated it in my own mind, in my own heart. I don't want that for you. I want you to perceive yourself as the Holy Spirit perceives you, as holy, loving, holy, lovable. Perception always involves some misuse of mind because it brings the mind into areas of uncertainty. The mind is very active. When it chooses to be separated, it chooses to perceive. Until then, it wills only to know. Afterwards, it can only choose ambiguously. And the only way out of ambiguity is clear perception. The mind returns to its proper function only when it wills to know. This place it in the service of spirit, where perception is changed. The mind chooses to divide itself when it chooses to make its own levels. But it could not entirely separate itself from spirit, because it is from spirit that it derives its whole power to make or create. Even in miscreation, the mind is affirming its source, or it would merely cease to be. This is impossible because the mind belongs to spirit, which God created and which is therefore eternal. One more time. This is impossible because the mind belongs to spirit, which God created and which is therefore eternal. Right? This is what also Dan, my coach, was talking about. There is only one source, right? One light. However, we can use this light, this creative energy to create anything we want, even miscreate, right? Miscreate, instead of seeing ourselves not as infinite beings, not as loving beings, but these putrid, garbage making people, you know, by just showing how creative the mind can be, right? We can miscreate, guided for years, miscreate, believe these negative egoic scripts, or we could believe more in alignment to the Holy Spirit and be like, hey, actually, you are as perfect as God created you. Oh, we're guiltless. Let's go create, let's make some good in the world, right? And let's look at ourselves with this loving lens. This is what the Course says about belief in nothingness and everything cannot coexist, right? Either we are from everything, we're from all that is, from source, or we're not. You know, the truth is the truth, right? Our existence, there is a truth, right? How much peace do you know that your consciousness will exist forever? Next. The ability to perceive made the body possible because you must perceive something and with something. That is why perception involves an exchange or translation, which knowledge does not need. The interpretive function of perception, a distorted form of creation, then permits you to interpret the body as yourself in an attempt to escape from the conflict you have induced. Spirit, which knows, could not be reconciled with this loss of power because it is incapable of darkness. This makes spirit almost inaccessible to the mind and entirely inaccessible to the body. Thereafter, spirit is perceived as a threat because light abolishes darkness merely by showing you it is not there. Truth will always overcome error in this way. And this cannot be an active process of correction because, as I've already emphasized, knowledge does not do anything. It can be perceived as an attacker, but it cannot attack. What you perceive as its attack is your own vague recognition that knowledge can always be remembered, never having been destroyed. God and his creations remain in certainty, and therefore know that no miscreation exists. Truth cannot deal with errors that you want. I was a man who remembered spirit and its knowledge. As a man, I did not attempt to counteract error with knowledge, but to correct error from the bottom up. I demonstrated both the powerlessness of the body and the power of the mind. By uniting my will with that of my Creator, I naturally remembered spirit and its real purpose. I cannot unite your will with God's for you, but I can erase all misperceptions from your mind if you will bring it under my guidance. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Without them, your choice is certain. Sane perception induces sane choosing. I cannot choose for you, but I can help you make your own right choice. Many are called, but few are chosen, should be. All are called, but few choose to listen. Therefore, they do not choose right. The quote unquote chosen ones are merely those who choose right sooner. Right minds can do this now, and they will find rest unto their souls. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. God knows you only in peace, and this is your reality. Only your misperceptions stand in your way. Right? You know what they say? We can be our own worst enemies. But I would encourage what you're going through now, no matter what it is, take it back to the mind, right? To the belief systems. What are you thinking and believing are true about this situation? Right? I've seen in my life when I tried fixing the calories or the exercise, but not looking at what was really hindering me was this pressure I put on myself to lose this weight in order to be loved, right? To be accepted. Instead of, hey, I'm just gonna love and accept myself now, and then this will work out. It's simple, but is it easy? Right? Do we apply this? Right? Do we see rightly? Or on to part 5 of chapter 3, Beyond Perception. I have said that the abilities you possess are only shadows of your real strength, and that perception, which is inherently judgmental, was introduced only after the separation. No one has been sure of anything since. I've also made it clear that the resurrection was the means for the return to knowledge, which was accomplished by the union of my will with the Father's. We can now establish a distinction that clarifies some of our subsequent statements. Since the separation, the words create and make have become confused. When you make something, you do so out of a specific sense of lack or need. Anything made for specific purpose has no true generalizability. When you make something to fill a perceived lack, you are tacitly implying that you believe in separation. The ego has invented many ingenious thought systems for this purpose. None of them is creative. Inventiveness is a wasted effort, even in its most ingenious form. The highly specific nature of invention is not worthy of the abstract creativity of God's creations. Knowing, as we have already observed, does not lead to doing. The confusion between your real creation and what you have made of yourself is so profound that it's become literally impossible for you to know anything. Knowledge is always stable, and it's quite evident that you are not. Nevertheless, you are perfectly stable as God created you. In this sense, when your behavior is unstable, you are disagreeing with God's idea of your creation. You can do this if you choose, but you would hardly want to do it if you were in your right mind. Mm. You are perfectly stable as God created you. Mm. How many of us, we act out of impulse, especially now with the rise of social media, these short content, not to judge, right? But it keeps us distracted, unintentional, right? That's why I'm also practicing right now to just take a step back and take even a couple of minutes just with the Holy Spirit. What would you have me do? What would you have me do now? Right? And do this more with intention. This is unconscious behavior. Like I said, I'm not perfect. I have my slip ups, but I see where the unconsciousness leads, where I just, oh man, where did all this time go? you know? The fundamental question you continue to ask yourself cannot properly be directed to yourself at all. You keep asking what is you are. This implies the answer is not only there's also one that is up to you to supply. Yet you cannot perceive yourself correctly. You have no image to be perceived. The word image is always perception related and not a part of knowledge. Images are symbolic and stand for something else. That idea of changing our image, recognizing the power of perception, but also implies that there's nothing stable to know. Mm, exactly. I had this, I was talking about the laws of physics. They're laws, they never change, right? And the same with what you are, you know, who you really are as an infinite spirit. It never changes, even if you're moody, even if you fuck up, you know? Because knowing is not open to interpretation. You may try to interpret meaning, but this is always open to error because it refers to the perception of meaning. Such incongruities are the result of attempts to regard yourself as separate and unseparated at the same time. It is impossible to make so fundamental a confusion without increasing your overall confusion still further. Your mind may have become very ingenious, but as always happens when method and content are separated, it is utilized in a futile attempt to escape from an inescapable impasse. Ingenuity is totally divorced from knowledge because knowledge does not require ingenuity. Ingenious thinking is not the truth that shall set you free, but you are free of the need to engage in it when you're willing to let it go. Prayer is a way of asking for something. It is the medium of miracles, but the only meaningful prayer is for forgiveness, because those who have been forgiven have everything. Once forgiveness has been accepted, prayer in the usual sense becomes utterly meaningless. The prayer for forgiveness is nothing more than a request that you may be able to recognize what you already have. In electing perception instead of knowledge, you place yourself in a position where you could resemble your Father only by perceiving miraculously. You have lost the knowledge that you are yourself a miracle of God. Creation is your source and your only real function. One more time, guys. You have lost the knowledge that you yourself are a miracle of God. Creation is your source and your only real function, right? That we forgive. We forgive everything about ourselves, right? Everything that we feel we have done, we have screwed up, all right? Any attacks we have done, we forgive, and we also create. Right? Whatever form of creation that inspires you, whatever it is. I'm making these videos. I also doing improv comedy that lights up my world. When they tell a guys, just get some hobbies. What does that mean? Right? It means creating something, right? Whatever inspires you, Truth can only be known. All of it is equally true, and knowing any part of it is known all of it. Only perception involves partial awareness. Knowledge transcends the laws governing perception because partial knowledge is impossible. It is all one and has no separate parts. You who are really one with it need but know yourself, and your knowledge is complete. To know God's miracles is to know Him. Forgiveness is the healing of the perception of separation. Correct perception of your brother is necessary because minds have chosen to see themselves as separate. Spirit knows God completely. That is its miraculous power. The fact that each one has his power completely is a condition entirely alien to the world's thinking. The world believes that if anyone has everything, there's nothing left. But God's miracles are as total as his thoughts because they are his thoughts. As long as perception lasts, prayer has a place. Since perception rests on lack, those who perceive have not totally accepted the atonement and given themselves over to truth. Perception is based on a separated state, so that anyone who perceives at all needs healing. Communion, not prayer, is the natural state of those who know. God and his miracle are inseparable. How beautiful indeed are the thoughts of God who live in his light. Your worth is beyond perception because it is beyond doubt. Do not perceive yourself in different lights. Know yourself in the one light where the miracle that is you is perfectly clear. Damn. Know yourself in the one light where the miracle that is you is perfectly clear. Right? The one light, the infinite light. Remember, guys, you are a miracle of the infinite creator, even if you don't feel it right now. Well, I hope that helped you feel a little bit better wherever you are in this journey of self-love. All right, may the Holy Spirit light up your path wherever it takes you. Take care.